Every CEO has almost no idea what is going to happen next, me included. But I speak to over 100 different founders, investors, CEOs every single month. So I get to hear what's happening next a little bit faster. For example, I met with two Swedish brothers who have created the most incredible tool when it comes to creative and strategic reasoning. It is genuinely mind-blowing. Also, are you not wondering why creator, influencer, social agencies haven't worked with more design and branding agencies? Whoa, wait a second. Okay, cool, and residents. Will it be the first? Absolutely not. We're gonna see a lot more of that in 2026 for sure. Basically, the creative economy is growing, evolving, and restructuring as we speak. So if you run or you want to run a creative company in 2026, then this matters. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to Good CEOs. This is episode 2, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you have just me this time. There is no guest. That is how we're running these podcasts. So every month you'll have a guest, and every month you'll have just me. We're doing this because I feel like we come across so much stuff, right? We come across 1,000 conversations every month at Unknown, and I have no place to put these conversations. So every month it will be just me talking about how I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, what we're all seeing as a business, and then moving into what we're predicting to happen over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. We're going to start with feelings, what's going on in the world of Unknown and the creative economy. And then we're going to move into some predictions, the things that we're seeing, and hopefully they're going to help you as you move through your life as an aspiring CEO or as a current CEO. And then we're going to move into our Q&A. So I'm really excited to get into those and share my thoughts on those questions. Let's get into this. And please keep the questions coming because they're enjoyable to read, enjoyable to answer. And I think they help people who are also sitting in similar positions to you right now. So thank you. For those that probably don't know, or maybe you do know, we announced Unknown 2.0 1 week ago. And it's funny, when you do these things, it looks like you've just gone, ba-da-ba, new website, new launch film, we're new. But the changes for us started like a year and a half ago. And I wanted to use this moment to be like, why? What happened? And why did we evolve as a business? And why did we move on? About 18 months ago, we had this feeling that things were moving and changing a lot in the creative industry. 6.5 years ago, when we launched this business, the industry looked very different. You had things in silos and everything was very neat and tidy. You had design agencies here and you had social agencies and creative agencies and everything all in these neat, tiny little bundles. And then I think 2 major things happened. COVID happened. That meant everyone worked remotely. They went freelance. You had the Great Resignation, if you remember that. And then AI. And those 2 things were the perfect storm to say, whatever got you here won't get you there. And things are changing. The model needs to change. The way that we price for the things need to change. The way that we work and we deliver our value needs to change. So we started our journey then 18 months ago. And every time we have gone into any evolution, I think the creative design agency lover in me goes straight to how is it going to look and how is it going to sound? And my managing director was like, this is not how we're going to do that this time. We are going to have a back-end evolution, a back-end. We're going to look at the structure of this business. And we're going to go not straight to a communications consultant or to an agency. We're actually going to go to a CFO and a business model consultant, and we're going to speak about our business. So that was really out of my comfort zone because I don't necessarily thrive in spreadsheets and models and formulas. I'm more interested in getting out into the world and doing things like this. That was where the work started. And we met this brilliant lady called Caroline Johnson, who, if you don't know, runs a company called The Business Model Company. They even wrote a book where she features called The Madison Avenue Makeover. It's an amazing book that speaks about Huge and when they went from being this big global company and they wanted to move from being a services-led business into being a productized business. So Caroline was brilliant in sitting us down and saying, like, who are you? What do you stand for? What is the value that you create? And she taught us this thing, which was called the operating model triangle. So before we start talking about we want to sound like this and we think the industry's heading in this way, Caroline very clearly said, well, how do you currently create value? How do you deliver that value? And how do you price for that value? So for those that are listening and not watching, at the top of the triangle is the creation of the value, how you put the thing out into the world that you say that you do. The bottom of the triangle on the bottom right is how you deliver against that value, i.e. the teams that you have that produce the work. And then the bottom left is how you price for that value. And the thing that we had never really thought about or considered is bottom left and bottom right. We always change the top of the triangle, how we talk about what we do, but we never thought, why aren't we looking at how we deliver the value that we deliver and also how we price for that? So that was a huge journey for us, and we had to accept things that we didn't want to do anymore, and we had to double down on the things that we did want to do. That was the journey. We then brought in a CFO, brilliant man called Andy Leck, who had been CFO in companies like Dentsu and WPP, and then most recently Stephen Bartlett's Flight Story. We went with Andy because he had this incredible breadth of big PLC, experience, and then also working with someone that has investments at Dragon's Den and podcasts. So that was really unlike us. We spent most of our time, to be honest, 6 months, really figuring out, can we make sure that the thing that we're doing delivers an outcome to our clients that is centered around growth? And how can we make sure that the way that we deliver that is also then going to lead to us growing and us scaling and us having a wider margin than we did before? So that was the beginning of the journey. I won't go into the depths of what we did, but the result of what ended up happening were 9 beautiful products in 3 front doors. For those that know Caroline Johnson's work, she will convince many people to go down the 3-door route. If they work well, the beauty of the 3 doors is most companies go, we'll do gold, silver, bronze. And Caroline will always say to you, no, you shouldn't be going gold, silver, bronze and giving like a bit of a shitter service in bronze and an okay in silver and a really good one in gold. It should be gold, gold, gold. And those doors should be designed around the customer's need at whichever point in the journey that they're at. So that was a bit of a brainwave for us. It's not that an M&A project for us is worth more than building a freelance global talent bench for an agency. They're just different solutions to different problems. So that was the biggest kind of behavioral change that we took on. We went through all of that work, and then we went to the brilliant Lachlan Williams to help us. I've worked with Lachlan for a long time. He was the knight in shining armor that came and helped us with good brains for good brands. We started a charity agency and we had not any briefs at all coming into our business only 6 months after launching it. It was 2,000 people, and we did 8 charity campaigns, and Lachlan was our CSO. And Lachlan, supported by a brilliant lady called Amy Durakoukis, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Amy, sorry if I'm not. Both of them came together. Amy did this incredible sort of cultural understanding of who we are and how we want to show up in the creative industry. She interviewed me for 2.5 hours, and we landed on this really simple sentence where I actually maybe recommend doing this question yourself. But she said, if you were in a room with all of your competitors and people that you wanted to compete against, what would people say about your team and your people and you if you were in that room? I was like, oh, God, okay. And you kind of go through logical things, like, oh, we want them to say this. And she don't know, what would they say? I was like, okay. Well, I think the difference is that anybody from Unknown, the whole purpose of their job is to help people feel like growth is inevitable and they can do anything. So I would want people feeling like they were listened to, and I'd want people feeling like they'd spoken about things aspirationally and they were excited. Maybe we wouldn't be asking, what do you do? We'd be asking, who do you want to become? And that was the moment Amy went, well, that's your line. Who do you want to become? And just something as simple as that question of who do you want to become, it signals if you are the type of person that believes that becoming is better than being and that there's never any arriving in life. If you believe that, then you are our type of person. And if you're our type of person, then we can help you become who you want to become. That felt really clear to me, and I took that to Lachlan. So we ended up landing on this proposition, which was a sentence actually, and that sentence was, when you capitalize on creativity, growth isn't just possible, it's inevitable. And that felt really good. It's a mouthful, and you can't say it on a call without sounding a little bit like, oh God, how do I land that thing? And even when you come up with lines like make growth inevitable and all these brilliant things that 10 Days then did with the communications work, it takes a while to get used to saying it because you're transitioning into a new linguistic world, and it's one that we're really proud of. So that was the process as to how we evolutionized our proposition to the market. When you look at the creative industry, it's really easy to fall into this doom trap of everything is changing and I don't like it, and what I used to do, which was so enjoyable, seems that it's getting chewed up. And that isn't untrue. A head of art at JWT in 1995 is probably not going to be a role that we're hiring for in 2026. However, that person that was incredibly visually gifted and commercially minded absolutely can thrive in this industry. It's just that the roles might look different, and the agencies or brands that are hiring them have evolved and changed and are expecting that person to have digital commercial awareness. So the roles are changing, and the businesses and how they charge are changing. You've been saying this for a long time. So that was really the problem or the opportunity. The wider economic opportunity is the fact that the global creative economy is going to double, and that's thanks to a rise of creators, but it's also thanks to a rise of new technologies that help us do what we did better. We saw all these things changing. We saw growth was on the horizon for the creative economy. We saw agencies' models evolving. And we saw people within the industry evolving their skills and learning these new things and wanting to be more valuable to these businesses. And sadly, we also saw people that didn't want to change. And our proposition and our business isn't for them. And that is weird, by the way. We've run an exec search firm for 6.5 years. We've been doing team builds globally from New York to Nairobi to LA to wherever. Some of which would be, these are huge kind of team overhauls and then team builds. You pick up signals really fast. You find out who's the first company that's hiring right now and scaling. You find out who's the company that's losing people and making redundancies and firings. You also find out who's trying to acquire other businesses. You find out who's trying to sell their businesses. So that's given us this insight immediately into the industry. So simply put, knowing that we are the first people that hear most things that are happening, that is why we have evolved our model. And that is why we are saying to the industry, now is the time that growth can become inevitable. We're kind of used to this AI presence. And philosophically, I believe that becoming is better than being. So that's us. That's the message that we're getting out into the world. What do we help companies do? We help companies hire, restructure, or acquire their way to growth. Those are our doors. We have the hire door, we had the restructure door, and we have the acquisition door. And so excitingly, within the first month of us launching, we won briefs on both sides, which is really cool. We've picked up 3 buy-side acquisition opportunities where we're helping everything from a digital transformation business acquire a European product company through to a PE-backed group that are expanding into the US, all the way through to global talent bench builds for multi-million, nearly billion-dollar brands who are in-housing a lot of their work and building and bringing in the top creative leaders and designers. So it's really exciting. We were over the moon with the work that 10 Days created for us. These guys are fucking mental. Obviously, we go to them and with all of our kind of growth is inevitable, and when you capitalize on creativity, yeah, great, we love it, we've got the message, thanks, we know what we're going to do. They sent us this script which was just mind-blowing, and just went, you're going to read that direct to camera and then we're going to do the rest of the work. We had this deadline coming, so it was just a leap of hope that they were going to produce the work that we were happy with. And my God, when they sent the stills of me as a candle and a lizard and a slug and Anna Wintour, I was just immediately excited. I didn't know what the hell they'd created. It was perfect. Everything that they made was absolutely what we wanted to say to the industry, and that is, there has never been a better time to be someone that understands their humanity. There has never been a better time for a creative person to have an intrigue and excitement about AI, but also is innately themselves. They've got taste, they've got craft, they've got experience. All of these things that you have been doing for the last 5, 10, 15, 30, 50 years have led to this moment where you can lean into this technology to make whatever the fuck you want. And isn't that such an exciting moment? We had a couple of trolls. I always say this to my team, because if you don't get one person calling you a knob or saying, oh, I don't like this, it's not disruptive, it's not, opinionated enough, to be honest, because you can't be for everyone. And that was definitely what we discovered in our 6.5 years. You can't get everybody a job, you can't help everybody hire. You have to work out who the people that you are for and who the people you are for not. And for someone that is a deeply insecure people pleaser, that's an uncomfortable place to be. But I've had to get used to that. Once we had done all of this intensive work with Caroline and Andy and Amy, and we'd figured out our model and how we were going to price for it and how we were going to deliver that value, the next part was well, how are you going to tell the world about this thing? I had my own ideas. They were crap. You know, when you've been so deep in the consultative language and the business proposition, when we called our lovely friends at 10 Days and excitingly popped into their offices to see Jodion and George. It's a wonderland, by the way, that office. If you ever get a chance to go in there and brief them and work with them, it just feels like wild creativity is happening the whole time. And that's actually not how Nat and I, my marketing manager Nat, felt when we went in. I was so heavily in the mindset of all this consultative language that I wanted to land with my clients. It was almost like I sat in, I had to shrug that off as we were briefing the guys at 10 Days. So we briefed them and we said, you know, we have these beliefs. And they were like, yeah, we've got it. We understand what you're saying. And George and Jolyon just sort of read us the riot act, as it were, and said, like, let's get deeper than this. What's really going on in the world? What's actually happening right now? And so they interrogated us. We had a few calls, and then this beautiful script just arrived. We jumped on a call and they said, look, we've done some thinking and we actually think that you need to read this script direct to camera, which I know I'm doing right now, but I'm really trying to get used to this. And you know what? We leapt into this. We did it. I recorded the script direct to the camera 19 times. And that was it. And we left and we went to 10 Days and went, right, okay, over to you guys. You are the masters of this. 10 Days have done incredible work. They've done the interior work. They've done this mad stuff. It's so much work that I would reference with those guys. And everything they do is always rooted in high levels of taste, rooted in like human truth and a deep insight that makes sense to the business, but also the audience the business is trying to reach. And it's always entertaining. So we trusted them. And when they came out with this brilliant script and this incredible film, we were just so over the moon. I was at the point where I was like, I don't even know if I care if the audience watch this thing now. I just feel really proud that you guys have made this work. And then it worked. And we had over 100,000 views in less than 2 days. People were like, oh my God, this is incredible. Ha ha. Like screenshotting all the weird pictures of me as a slug and a candle and a winter. Brands reaching out, being like, who made this thing? Can we speak to 10 Days? Which again is the reason we're doing this because we want people to our known services. Also, work with 10 Days because they're incredible. It ended up amounting in 3 briefs to us, which is mad. When you're doing a brand campaign like that in a kind of B2B sphere, you're not expecting companies to go onto the website and press grow my company. You just want people to be aware of what you stand for and who you are. So the fact that it ended up in, you know, one massive buy-side project for a huge digital transformation company in the US, and then a big brand who were looking to build a team of 30 creatives and designers, didn't see it coming, over the moon with that. Can't say that we're going to do one of those every month, but we can aspire to hopefully trying to do that. I had to do a big shout out to 10 Days, and for any CEO listening to this or any person listening to this that wants to see and work with genuine creatives that are like, and strategists that are just practitioners. I think that is the word I want to use. So huge shout out to 10 Days and a massive thank you again if you're listening. Okay, so we're going to move on to the second part of this podcast, which is all about predictions. So last time, if you listened, Toby Southgate joined me and he made his 3 big predictions for the creative economy in 2026. I'm going to be asking myself, but also our guests, what are you predicting in the next month, 2 months, year to happen for the creative economy? Why me and why am I doing this? We have 20 consultants at Unknown that have 1,000 conversations every month. They're speaking to a combination of agency founders, brand CMOs, investors. We have, 10 of those people are speaking to talent the whole time. The other 10 are speaking to, yes, talent, but also very senior people that are either hiring, acquiring, restructuring. So that's what this part is. It's me dying on a hill. Maybe I'll be right. Maybe I won't be right. So prediction number 1, hybrid tech is coming. What do I mean? So last year, there was a lot of talk about LLMs and everyone using LLMs, ChatGPT and Claude. And then there was the next wave of argument happening being like, I just tried it. Look how crap ChatGPT is. Great. We can all put bad prompts in and we can all make bad work with AI. The fact of the matter is, if you combine someone with a high level of reasoning and a high level of taste with this thing and you're querying it and prompting it in the right way, you can get very exciting results. Now, I've heard that. Have I done it? I've done a couple of things with it that I've been quite impressed by. Have I really let into it? Not really. And then I came across these two brothers, Ronge brothers. I never know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they're Stefan and Matthias. These guys were the co-CCOs and founders of Deportivo. They founded Deportivo and they sold Deportivo to Edelman. And they did the near impossible and turned a PR company into a Grand Prix winning PR company. I think Edelman are nearly doing $1 billion in revenue now. They are growing, and I think a huge part of that is their investment into strategic creativity. Now, these brothers have left and for 1.5 years been tinkering away with this AI tool. And I got this email from Stefan just saying, "Hey Ollie, we've not spoken for a long time. We used to do some hiring for Edelman Deportivo before." And he went, "By the way, my brother and I have been working on this tool. We'd love to hear your thoughts." They send it. I didn't quite know what it was. It said it was the only reasoning tool for strategists and creatives. And because I was doing a launch with the Unknown 2.0 thing, I just put a brief in. Oh my God, this thing in a heartbeat. It asked me a few questions and it asked what am I trying to achieve, which audience, When I've asked ChatGPT or any AI tool, the things that come back are generally very generic. They're things that have happened in the past, nothing new, nothing original, nothing weird. This came back with some of the weirdest and genuinely different ideas that would genuinely work with my audience in less than a minute. So that kind of freaked me out. I was like, what does this mean? Because if the right agency built this into their processes, this means that you could do the 24-hour pitch. This means that you could turn around real thought starters globally and quickly. And this might just change the entire industry if the right company gets their hands on this. And the thing that I thought was really unique and different about this, because every agency group is saying that they're making this, nearly every holding co is saying that they're making something like this. I've not seen anything like this work. The only thing I've seen in AI tech that's working, that agencies are using, is Pencil over at Jellyfish and the Brand Tech Group. I know that is working. I know that other holding co's are licensing that product, and I know that that's why Brand Tech acquired it, and it is making people's creative better and it is driving top line growth. Up until this point, up until seeing this technology, I had presumed that all AI tech was basically bottom line saving, efficiency driving, never top line generating, or even brand growing. So I'm going to link this somewhere and say check out Engine Y. It is very exciting, and I think if any agency manages to successfully get in there and do some sort of partnership with them, they'd be doing a very smart thing. So that was my first prediction. Hybrid tech is coming. Prediction number 2, brand consultancy and creator. We have never seen these two worlds come together. What do I mean by that? Imagine Buck, the well-known design production-led behemoth. They're massive. They work with Amazon, Apple, Google. I mean, they have every client under the sun, and they were very well known for doing quite production end level stuff. And now they're doing design consultancy, strategic consultancy work for their clients. So that in itself is really exciting. They've jumped from production, moving up the ladder to design consultancy. AKA, they could have been competing with Stink, and now they're competing with the Wolf Olins, and they're advising CEOs on what to do with their brand strategy. That in itself is exciting. The thing that I think is even more exciting is that the company that owns Buck, Residence, has now acquired OK Cool, the social creator, youth culture focused agency. Now, 15 or 10 years ago, those companies would never have worked together. The margins are normally quite different. The contacts that they're working with in a group are very different. One's working with the CEO, the other's working with brand managers or CMOs. However, the world as we know it is changing. And I can see two polar opposite businesses working with clients at different ends of the scale, solving different problems, suddenly becoming back to back. Imagine it in a different world. Imagine if a goat, before they were acquired by WPP, acquired Wolf Olins or merged with Wolf Olins. That means you've got people that are speaking to companies at the point of change, global blue chip, what are we going to do, how do we reposition change, with a company that do influencer, that are in the comments, that are creating content, finding out what people really want from those brands. It reminds me of Monzo, having those community groups and being more community-led and making their decisions, not just marketing decisions, but product decisions, business decisions, based on what their community is saying. And if we're moving into this world where there are only two things that are true, authenticity and community, then how valuable would that be to the people that are advising founders, advising CEOs? having intel, having data, having insights coming from influencer and communities. And that's what I think is really interesting here, because those two worlds will come together and then they'll wrap up entire brands. Okay, we've made this change. What's the world saying about it? What's the community saying about our brand? What should we change? Should we stick to the strategy? So I think that's really exciting. I don't think it will be the last time that we see this. I think we can see a bunch of brilliant strategic consultancies coming up through the ranks. Look at Fundamental Co. with Alex Lubar. Look at Invisible Dynamics. The strategic consultancies, they will have access into PE-backed, up-and-coming brands, VC-backed, and they'll also have access to blue-chip brands as well. And that will then open the door for social content creator, influencer companies. And I just see this world where those two exist together and get a lot of brilliant work done, built around community and authenticity. Okay, prediction number 3. Oh, this is a big one. This is coming up everywhere. And my prediction, by the way, is experiential is going to be what everyone is talking about this year. It's going to be on every M&A list for every holding co, for every PE-backed group. Experience as a thing in general is coming back. If you look at, retail media spend, if you look at all of the areas where brands are investing, look at Cannes. I mean, Jesus Christ, if you look at Pinterest and Google and Canva, brands are seeing value in creating experiences for their consumers. You could argue that brands are sort of exposed to spending money on social content and performance marketing, and therefore are saying, well, how can we own the experience ourselves? So therefore, when you're a Stagwell or one of these PE-backed groups that are perhaps doing lots of brand consultancy, branding, brand identity, campaign work, there's this hole in the middle, which is, well, what are we doing about the physical and digital experience? Look at companies like Amplify or companies like Jack Morton, these companies who have just been bought out of IPG. They understand experience in the most innately human way. But now we know that people want to experience things all the way through, from the website experience through to the store experience, through to the event that they're going to. Look at Netflix, Stranger Things. A lot of those campaigns will now be based around a physical experience. I'm just saying now, experiential is hot, and we're expecting to see a huge demand for experiential agencies, not just from brands, but from the holding companies that will try and acquire those types of businesses. So if you're running an experiential agency, double down, build out the EBITDA, expand, do the things that you need to do. Okay, this is my bonus prediction, and it's not a prediction, it's probably more of a question. That is the upside down triangle. Up until now, before AI, before a lot of people went off and set their own businesses up, most companies would be built like a pyramid, and they would have major senior leaders up the top, and then you have the middle, the lovely thick middle layer, and then the big bottom layer, which would be the kind of junior talent joining the business. It is a shame and it is a problem, but it is also happening commercially, and it's making a lot of sense at the moment for companies to flip their triangle upside down and have a thick layer of highly capable senior practitioners at the top of their business. A lot of them aren't permanently employed, they're fractionally employed, because you don't need to have a standing army of people if you haven't got the briefs constantly coming in. And so we're seeing companies go, right, well, rather than have this thing where the risk gets more and more, the more junior the talent is, the riskier it becomes for our business to put our clients with those people. And the model isn't working right now because the margin's not big enough. Where it really makes sense for us is to have practitioners at the top that don't want to manage teams anymore, that want to lead clients, grow clients, make the work, and maybe have some supporting teams underneath. You couple this with a scary storm of AI and capabilities, and you build in these reasoning tools. This does two things. Number one, it makes an incredible commercial story for these companies and incredible capabilities. And the second thing it does is it completely takes away entry into the industry. So this is a bit of a problem. It's amazing for 3 years, and then it's terrifying for the years after, because you don't have this level of talent coming through, being exposed to hard moments where they have to lean in and learn, standing up and quivering and pitching in front of their boss whilst they're going, oh my God, what am I doing? And then being the boss and being, oh, this is how you do it, and creating the environment for those people to rise. And I don't have a solution for this. I know I speak to Alex Beck at Creative Lives in Progress, and he has this brilliant philosophy of just do one thing. Everyone just did one thing for one junior person to come up through the ranks and get better at what they do, and you provide a space for them to make mistakes and learn, well, then you're doing one thing more than most other companies. So I think I just wanted to have this in the podcast to acknowledge it and say that we are building structures and commercial businesses that are fantastic for margins, fantastic for creating value. Are they creating opportunities and environments for younger people and junior people to join this industry and learn and fail and iterate and get better? Because at the moment, I don't know if we're seeing that. Otherwise, we will have an issue going forward. You won't be able to scale those businesses or even sell those businesses if that's your plan down the line. So I just wanted to put that there. And if anyone has any thoughts or questions on that, I would love to hear from you, because this is a thing that's not going to go away. Okay, we're moving into the Q&A, the final part of the podcast, the listeners' questions. So this is the part where I'm going to read out a question that has been asked of me, and I'm going to answer it with whatever comes to my mind there and then. Question number 1. More private equity money is pouring into mid-sized agencies via independent holding companies. How can these independents not fall into the same traps as the bigger beasts? Can you really get big and not be really shit? Or is that a law of physics in the creative industries? Yes. To answer the question, can you get big and not be shit? Yes, you can be big and keep on getting better and better. I think that, look at Wyden and Kennedy. Look at these companies that have scaled. That I believe that Wyden and Kennedy, when they scaled, said, how can we get big without getting shit? I think that was literally their brief. How did they do that? This is the thing that I think we see in a lot of these PE-backed companies, where capitalism takes over and mistreats not just the tangible value of creativity, but they underuse the assets that they've acquired. And what I mean by that is, at the beginning of this podcast, I was speaking about, you focus on the bottom of the triangle, the capturing, the delivering the value and the pricing of the value. But what is the value to the people in the group and outside of the group? And how do you speak about that value that is uniquely placed to your business? What I'm talking about is what Common Interest have done very, very well. For those that don't know, Common Interest, founded by Anthony Friedman, and has built a collection of arguably the sharpest, brightest shining companies in our industry right now. 21st Century Brand, Amplify, Other Way. The name Common Interest makes so much sense, right? What are they doing? They're investing in the fact that entertainment, brand, human nature of experience is for people like us. And therefore we share a common interest with our brands, but not just our brands, we share a common interest with our audiences over those brands. And so if you are the type of brand that cares about your audience and you want to entertain them and engage them, well, then you're one of us. And so it's genius naming, but it's also genius casting. Common Interest aren't just casting for brands and for the consumers of those brands. They're also casting for agencies that have the same beliefs as them. To answer this person's question, can you get big without getting shit? Yes, you can, if you pick what you stand for and pick what you don't, and find a way to very clearly explain that to the market. And that does mean you've got to sacrifice being greedy in areas. It means that you've got to say no to things. It means that you've got to say no to different types of people that want to work for you, different types of companies that want to work with you. And that is what we need. We don't need bigger and better. We need different, to paraphrase the wonderful Alex Smith, who writes the book No Bullshit Strategy. If you go for different, then you are future-proofing yourself. So I think that's the antidote to this, is building the brand of what the private equity backed group stands for and what it doesn't stand for as well. I hope that answers your question and helps in some kind of way. Question number 2. Hello, Ollie. I am leaving a holding company CEO role after 10 years to join our biggest competitor. I want to get this right. How should I approach my first 100 days? Well, firstly, congratulations. That's a bold and big move. I can imagine quite an emotionally hard decision to make, particularly when you've built 10 years of loyalty with not just your bosses, but the team and the company and the systems and everything that you've built. So why you've left, I imagine you see an opportunity is greater in this next holding company. First thing, is don't listen to this and completely detach yourself from this industry and remember who you are. Where you're going next, you are going to have to make people feel heard, make people feel seen, and then you're going to have to get them to believe in your vision of the future. You can't do that without knowing who you are. And you can't do that with knowing who you aren't and what you don't stand for. So I think having an awareness of who you are as a person before you go into this business, A, is a very responsible thing to do. B, is the right thing to do for your own sanity. And C, for God's sake, take a break. I say that because if you didn't do that and you went and joined this company, how many CEOs have you seen that have joined a business and they've gone, well, things are going to change around here and I'm fucking, you're not going to hang around. They sort of do the football manager thing and they act from a place of fear. They're acting from a place of, well, if I don't make changes fast enough, I'll lose my own job. And therefore I've got to make these hard and fast rules really quickly and I won't give anybody a chance and I'll do things the way I've always done things. Now, in some cases, that's the right way to run a business and change does have to happen fast. But in most cases, you can do that in such a kinder, better, probably more efficient way. Look, there are millions of frameworks for 100 days and how to approach the first 100 days. But the first way I think, is by understanding who you are and what kind of environment that you want to create. There's a brilliant guy in our Good CEOs group where we asked this question to, a CEO who's joining a new CEO role. And he said, ask every single person in the business, if I was CEO, I would. Not what would you do if you were CEO, open-ended question, because then they feel performative and they have to say these lovely open-ended questions. Alain de Botton from School of Life always speaks about them. You fill in the end of the sentence and there's more wonder and there's more kind of risk that you take with that question. So that's got to be the first month, right? The next thing, and it's a big thing, and these are the 3 A's that I speak about quite a lot: ambition, autonomy, and alignment. Every agency, every brand has an ambition. Not every agency, brand, or leadership team has an aligned ambition. Nearly no agency or brand has an aligned ambition where they're willing to give you the right level of autonomy to solve whatever opportunity or problem that you have. So how on earth am I going to do the thing that is expected from me? So what is the antidote to that? Ambition, alignment, autonomy. Number 1, what is the ambition of this agency or brand? What is the ambition of my role? What are you expecting me to achieve? I need that in a tight, aligned, very clear, measurable way of understanding that. The next thing is, are we all aligned? And if we have always been aligned and I'm coming into this role, why haven't you achieved this thing already? Okay. And then you normally get to, who's blocking this thing? You're all aligned, but for some reason this hasn't happened. What or who is the blocker? Why hasn't this happened in this time? And as you're asking these questions, you'll figure out it's either a person or a thing that's been getting in the way. And then the next big part is the A, is the autonomy, the last A. Where does my autonomy start and stop? When I come into this role, where can I fail and iterate and learn? And how am I being measured? And how long have I got? Because this stuff is never clear. And a lot of the time when big CEO roles are hired, or big CCO roles, or whatever these big positions are hired for, everyone's aligned on the ambition, but no one is aware of the autonomy and where it starts and stops. And suddenly they're ruffling feathers they never knew that they were there. So it's a really important thing to be aware of when you're going into these roles, understanding what the ambition is, understanding if they're aligned, and understanding what your autonomy is to achieve that ambition and where you can fail and can iterate and can learn from. I hope that helps. The best thing that my managing director did when she joined Unknown is she stood up and she said, right, I've listened to this. I've listened to all of your suggestions. I've listened to all of your gripes, problems, concerns. Can I just say the first thing? You're all really fucking good. And you can absolutely do the things that you want to do and that this business expects from you. But the next thing is there are gaps and there are things that we all need to own and accept before we try and move and adapt. Because if we pretend that we're killing it and everything's going fantastically well, I might as well just quit now. But we know that isn't what's happening. We know that there are gaps. We know that there are things that we've been ignoring, and we know that there are things that we need to work on. So I've got your trust. I know what you want to achieve. Now we need to know what you need to work on to get to that point. So I hope that helps. I hope that is helpful. Go in, enjoy it. You've been hired for a reason. You've got this. Wherever you're going, enjoy it. Okay, thank you. This is the end of the episode. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to me rambling on and predicting what's happening in the industry. This will be coming out, and then 2 weeks afterwards, you'll be hearing from us again. You can also read this newsletter at Beehive. We're going to put all these links so you guys can subscribe, share, and like. You should also know that our previous guest, Toby Southgate, has nominated our next guest. So we're very excited to announce who that is and what we're going to be speaking about. I hope you enjoyed this. Share it with someone that you think might. Thank you so much.